I have a question for you, and this question might sound strange to you because you were taught never to ask such a question in your life. Are you ready? Was God always God, or did God become God? Wait, these two sentences are not the same thing. The first one, God is a being with no beginning and no end, unchanging. The second one, the concept of God was born at some point in the human mind. It emerged from a specific need, a specific fear, a specific emptiness. Now I am going to ask you a much more striking question. If humanity did not invent God, why did God create us? Or is this the real question? Why did we create God? This video will disturb you because today we are entering the deepest, most dangerous, least asked question of religion. Why do we need God? Anthropologists and historians have been researching this question for centuries, and the findings showed this. Religion has existed since the earliest period of human history. Cave paintings dating back 40,000 years ago were found. Inside them are traces of rituals. There are burial ceremonies. Objects were placed next to the dead, as if they were going somewhere. But why? Why did the first human look at the sky and search for something there? One theory says fear. When lightning struck, when an earthquake happened, when a flood hit, the first human had absolutely no explanation. And something that has no explanation is something that cannot be controlled. Something that cannot be controlled is the most terrifying thing. So the human mind did something. It gave nature a face, a God who throws lightning, a God who rules the sea, a God who brings fertility. Because you can bargain with something that has a face. You can pray, you can offer a sacrifice, but you cannot bargain with an anonymous, faceless chaos. Some scientists call this theory agency detection. The human brain is programmed to look for an intention, an agent behind random events, because evolutionarily, this was advantageous. Did the wind or a predator make the rustle in the bush? If you mistakenly say predator and you are wrong, you just get a little nervous. But if you say wind and you are wrong, you die. Therefore, our brains were always programmed to say there is an agent, and maybe God is the reflection of this program onto the universe. Now we come to the real question, need. Why did humanity need God? Philosophers and psychologists explain this question with three main gaps. The first gap, the explanation gap. Human beings want to explain things they cannot understand. Why does the sun rise? Why does it rain? Why do humans die? Before science, the only answer to these questions was religion. God was a gap filled by every unknown. But something interesting happened here. As science advanced, this gap shrank. We now know why the sun rises. Astronomy explained it. We know why it rains. Meteorology explained it. We know what causes diseases. Medicine explained it. Some philosophers call this the God of the gaps. With every scientific discovery, God's duty of explanation shrinks a little more. So, does this mean God does not exist? Or does it mean God's actual duty was never explanation in the first place? The second gap, the meaning gap. Science can answer the how question for you, but it cannot answer the why question. Why does the universe exist? Does life have a purpose? Why am I here? Science cannot give a physical answer to these questions because these are not physical questions, and human beings cannot tolerate meaninglessness. Existentialist philosopher Viktor Frankl studied survivors in concentration camps, and he noticed something. The survivors were not the strongest, the healthiest people. They were the ones who found meaning in their lives. A human cannot endure meaningless suffering, but they can endure meaningful suffering. Maybe God is the answer to this need for meaning. The third gap, the death gap. And this is the deepest gap. Humans are the only living species in the universe aware of their own death. A lion does not know it is going to die. A bird does not know, but humans know. And this knowledge carries an unbearable weight. Anthropologist Ernest Becker developed a striking theory on this subject, the denial of death theory. All cultural structures of humanity, religion, art, the desire to leave a legacy, were actually built to manage the fear of death. Religion is the most powerful answer to this fear, because religion says death is not an end, and if death is not an end, that terrible weight lightens a little bit. Now we come to a very interesting point, because if God was born only from our needs, the sacred texts should not have known this. But some verses say exactly the opposite. In the book of Exodus, Moses asks God for his name, and God's answer is very interesting. I am who I am. In Hebrew, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, meaning I am the existing one, or I will be what I will be. This answer is not an optional definition. This answer is the definition of a self-existing being, dependent on nothing. So the text says, God was not born from needs. He existed before needs. But here is a very interesting paradox. If God existed before humans, without any human need, then why did he create humans? Some theologians give this answer. God did not need humans, but humanity was created as a natural overflow of God's love. An artist does not need to paint, but their creativity overflows and the painting emerges. Maybe humanity was an overflow like that. This answer is beautiful, but it still does not answer the real question. Don't ask God, ask humanity. Why did humanity need God? Now let's look at modern science. Because neuroscience approached this question from a very interesting perspective. In the 2000s, researchers began to examine what happens in the brain during a religious experience, and they found something surprising. During deep meditation or prayer, certain areas of the brain, especially regions related to the sense of self, decrease their activity. This situation was described by some researchers as the dissolution of the self. In other words, in deep religious experiences, humans feel that their own boundaries are melting, merging with something larger. This feeling is neurologically real. It is measurable. It is repeatable. So, what does this mean? According to one view, this is an illusion created by the brain. The experience of God is just a chemical event produced by neurons. According to another view, this is proof of humanity's capacity to connect with a true transcendent reality. The brain can experience this because this reality actually exists. Which one is correct? Science cannot resolve this question because it cannot measure whether the experience is real or not. It can only measure that the experience takes place in the brain, and this still leaves the question open. Now, I want to go back to the very beginning. Why did God become God? Maybe the answer is this: God never became. He always existed. And humans, in order to know him, tried to build a bridge with their own limited language, with their own limited mind. Or maybe the answer is much different. Maybe humans created God to search for a meaning in the midst of chaos, to find hope in the face of death, to give a face to everything they couldn't explain. And these two answers are not mutually exclusive, because maybe God really existed. And maybe, while humans were searching for him, they also projected their own deepest needs onto him. Both can be true at the same time. Now I am asking you, why do you think we need God? Or did we never need him at all? Write your answer in the comments. This time, I am truly curious. In the next video, we will cover the topic, Did God ever make a mistake? The shocking verses in the Bible. Subscribe now so you don't miss it.